A new tape has come out featuring Devin Nunes at a fundraising event for Representative Cathy McMorris Rodgers. Now, Devin Nunes has been a vocal supporter of Donald Trump. He continues to spread this narrative that this Russia investigation is nonsense. It's a witch hunt against Donald Trump and his administration. And what he essentially talks about in this recording, which was recorded by a progressive organization that actually paid to be at that fundraiser, sheds a little light into what he really thinks about this investigation and why he thinks it's incredibly important for Republicans to maintain control of Congress moving forward. So to give you some context before we go to these tapes, and by the way, Rachel Maddow is the person who obtained them and broke this story yesterday. In private at a closed-door fundraiser for a Republican colleague, Nunes took the new step of tying the investigation to the midterm elections this fall. In comments captured in this audio recording, he laid out in stark terms the rationale for preserving the GOP majority in Congress. So with that said, let's take a listen to the first portion of the tape. And here is where he really emphasizes the importance of maintaining power in Congress.
So therein lies, so it's like your classic catch-22 situation where we're at this is what puts us in such a tough spot. If Sessions won't unrecuse and Mueller won't clear the president, we're the only one, which is really the danger. That's why and thank you for saying it, by the way. I mean, we have to keep all these secrets. We have to keep the majority. If we do not keep the majority, all of this goes away.
Okay, so a couple of things that we get out of that. First of all, when he says we have to keep the majority, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a fundraiser for a fellow Republican, and of course the Republicans want to keep the majority. That makes sense. When he says we're in a catch-22, he apparently does not understand what the phrase catch-22 means. Catch-22 is you're basically in a tight spot either way. In this case, no, you're just saying we're in a tough spot, not either way. Anyway, it's a minor thing, but another Nunes imbecile comment, and he struggles with the English language. Okay, but that's like his friend Donald Trump. Obviously, the relevant part is if Sessions won't recuse himself and Mueller won't clear Trump, then we're the only ones who could stop it. Wait, if Mueller doesn't clear him, that means
he's guilty.
That he did that the special counsel thought he broke the law and is guilty. And you're saying here, don't worry, we'll stop it. Not, by the way, not even we'll look at what Mueller said and the evidence that he presents and then do our constitutional duty, which might be to then fight him because we don't agree, right?
Yeah.
It was, no, we're not gonna look at the evidence. Our job is to make sure we support Trump no matter what the evidence is and if he broke the law or didn't break the law. So make sure that you put us back in charge so that we can make sure basically Trump is above the law. Well, thank you for the clarity.
So for me, and it's subtle, but it's also noticeable. That sound clip that we just had you guys listen to is the first time where you hear him in a private meeting, essentially, private fundraiser, admitting that the only line of defense that Trump has is Republican lawmakers who are willing to brush things under the rug and protect him regardless of what he's done, right? So in public, it's a witch hunt. In private, no, we need to maintain power in Congress because we're the only ones that can protect the president.
And one part that no one's emphasizing because mainstream media just generally doesn't like to talk about donors because it makes it uncomfortable to talk about the corruption. But he at the end says, then all of this goes away. And he's saying that to the donors. Implicit in that is all the goodies we got you, including the giant tax cuts. That goes away if Trump goes away. So who cares if he broke the law or not? Okay, you don't want those tax cuts and everything else to go away. So make sure you support us as a last line of defense if Trump did break the law. Because by the way, if Trump didn't break the law, then you don't have any issue at all, right? His comments matter only if Trump did break the law, in which case Nunes and his buddies, he tells his donors, will protect Trump who gave you all those tax cuts. So that's how corruption works.
Exactly. I like that you pointed that out. And then in this next clip, it really drives home the point that Nunes believes that what Trump has done is illegal, because he is going to give these donors a hypothetical of what would be considered criminal behavior or criminal activity. And he essentially outlines a hypothetical that is very similar to what the Trump campaign is accused of doing. Take a listen.
Now, if somebody thinks that my campaign or Cathy's campaign is colluding with the Chinese, or you name the country, hey, it could happen. It would be a very bad thing if Cathy was getting secrets from the Portuguese, let's say, just because I'm Portuguese by background. So Cathy was getting secret information from the Portuguese. Well, may or may not be illegal. But ultimately, if that said the Portuguese came and brought her some stolen email, and she decided to release those, okay, now we have a crime, right? Because somebody stole the email, maybe Cathy released it. Well, if that's the case, then that's criminal.
Okay, so it's not my interpretation that his hypothetical is incredibly similar to what the Trump campaign is accused of doing. It is everyone's perspective. So I'll give you an example. This is according to Think Progress. Let's go to graphic 37. The hypothetical Nunes outlined resembles key aspects of what we know about the Trump campaign's interactions with the Kremlin in the months leading up to the 2016 election. So let me explain. The same day that Trump publicly urged Russia, if you're listening, to find the 30,000 emails that are missing, the indictment revealed several Russian government hackers began trying to access the email accounts of staffers in Clinton's private office. The indictment further described how the Russians delivered the hacked emails to WikiLeaks. And by the way, there was also the development that prompted the Australian diplomat to come forward, and that development was George Papadopoulos telling the Australian diplomat, hey, yo, the Russians have dirt on Hillary Clinton, we're communicating with them, right? And so the Australian diplomat went to the authorities and told them, this is what's going on, this is the kind of communication that the Trump campaign has with the Russians. Look, in the grand scheme of things, what I find to be way more important is the financial dealings that Trump might have with the Russians, right? Money laundering, working with oligarchs, possible, blackmail that these oligarchs could have dangling over Trump's head as he's supposed to be representing the American people. That, for me, is far more important. Collusion, is an issue, is a problem. I do think that Democrats are focusing way too much on it as an excuse for why they lost. But at the same time, Trump is freaking out. He can't stop tweeting about how innocent he is. And I think that his latest tweets, which I'm not even gonna get into, are a direct reaction to these tapes being released.
Yeah, so the only possible difference between the scenario that Nunes laid out and Trump's is, he said if Cathy McMorris Rodgers took the information from the Portuguese and then released it. Now, it's possible that the Trump campaign never took the stolen emails from the Russians. Instead, the Russians gave it to perhaps WikiLeaks or others who then printed them. Now, that would be a difference, and I think that would be a substantial difference. It's one thing if the emails go to the New York Times and they print it. It's a different thing if you give it to the campaign and then they go, thank you, and they release them. Because then they have accepted a donation, an in-kind donation, and conspired with a foreign government.
So you would need to prove that the Trump campaign, members of the Trump campaign, were in communication with the people who had the dirt on the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that they played a role in deciding how that would be released. Because clearly if the campaign releases it, there is a criminal liability there. I mean, I think that some of those campaigners were dumb, but they're not that dumb.
You never know, right? So that is why, first of all, you should let the investigation go forward and see what they come up with, because none of us really know. Unlike Nunes, we're not prejudging it. Curious to see what they come up with. But the things that we do know already is people are wondering if Roger Stone, who seemed to know before WikiLeaks was going to publish the emails, had communication with the Trump campaign and WikiLeaks. And if there was coordination there, well, then that's a totally different story. It's one thing if WikiLeaks just publishes it. I think that they're a news organization, and so, and look, there's some now questions around how thoroughly that they're working with the Russians, et cetera. Certainly in the past, they've been a news organization. And again, I would let the investigation tell us, are they coordinating as a news organization or as something else, et cetera. But Stone knowing it indicates some level of coordination. Papadopoulos knowing that the Russians have stolen emails before that's public reveals some, at least information and an attempted conspiracy, which is what the Trump Tower meeting appears to be. So you can't say there's nothing there, because clearly people inside the Trump camp know about the stolen emails before the public does and before anyone in the press has made them public.
Exactly, yes. And then one final part about these tapes that I thought was fascinating. Look, publicly, Nunes is so supportive of Trump, says nothing but complimentary things about Trump, never criticizes him in any way, shape, or form. However, privately, he made a point to talk about how Trump's tweets make Republicans like him cringe. So it was just interesting to hear the private version, the in front of donors at a fundraiser version of Nunes, and juxtapose that to who Nunes is in the public eye.
So now, look, you know that most politicians are liars, and it's grating on everybody's nerve. The only people who don't call them liars or don't recognize it are the people on TV who think they're honorable gentlemen. But the only time that a politician is telling the truth is when he's in front of his boss. That's the donors. So Mitt Romney in front of the donors, Gianforte in Montana, while he was running, he was saying, Affordable Care Act, I'm not sure, health care, I don't have have not solidified my point of view on that because it's actually popular. To donors in a call that was also recorded, he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill Affordable Care Act. I'm definitely gonna vote with Trump and definitely gonna kill it. Don't worry, give me the money and I'll do exactly what you asked me to do. Nunes here, don't worry guys, we're gonna protect all the things we got for you guys as long as Trump's in power, and we're gonna protect him no matter what. Oh, I know that Trump makes everybody cringe, who cares? But no, I'm gonna go on TV and say, no, he's a very stable genius and he's awesome. That's the time that they're telling the truth, when they're in front of the only people they care about, their donors. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.